Wayne, we've
Really
had
high.
a fair share of technical difficulties today. How are you, Dennis?
Wonderful, Becky. Good to see you again.
Thank you. So, Dennis, this is Dennis Hill. Dr. Dennis Hill. He has written a chapter, and he actually set the tone for the entire book by writing chapter one of the Brilliant Breakthroughs for Small Business Owners. Do you have the book in your hand? Can you hold it up?
Oh, my goodness gracious. Can you give
Well,
me 10 seconds?
okay, go get it. See, this is a day of celebration. We're just so happy and excited to be having this book launch and to see this is with the fifth book in this series, the excitement that's going on because each of these books in the series have been amazing. And here we are with this book, and it is the fifth in the series and Brilliant Breakthroughs for the Small Business Owner. That is amazing. So if you go to Amazon and just type in Maggie Mongan, be sure and look for that color of the book for this year's. There are four others that precede it. Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Dennis. So what's with this nice jacket and this thing around your neck?
Native American Month, not just Entrepreneurs Month. So maybe we'll just do Native American Entrepreneurs Month. Uh,
Awesome.
and you'll notice that the, excuse me, the bandana, of course, matches the color of the book.
It
So,
does. And it's very looks very good on you. You're awesome.
thank you.
So you were also the editor, and I want to give you great big kudos that you were the main editor in this book, and you did such an amazing job in making sure that it came ready to go, pretty much error free with as much as possibility as there is. There's always the things that our eyes don't see on the initial number of passes, but your attention to detail was so appreciated. So I wanted to give you kudos for that.
Well, it was easy work. When you have good writers, I have to admit that at least half of them required almost no edits. It was simply thematic issues. But when you have a good team of writers who are writing passionately from their experience, that makes light work for the editor.
Yes, yeah, that's pretty amazing. So thank you for your contribution in that. So your chapter, Dennis, is integrate for well-managed intentional profits, and you're in the pillar. Maggie has four pillars with each of the books, and the first one is profitability, and that's what how well your title tied in with that pillar. So let's talk about that in the sense of how it applies to us today to have intentional profits.
Well, that's a great question, and the reason why I wrote that chapter this year, it's really a follow-on to the chapter I wrote last year, which was intentional productivity.
So sorry.
Sorry about that.
Do you
I'm
need
trying to
some
beat
water?
up my cough,
Somebody
but
can get you some water.
somebody will get me something. Um, I scratched my epiglottis this weekend, so it's a
Oh,
little difficult to speak, but I'll do what I can. So the really great thing about this is that small business owners tend to operate almost from a foundation of nobody else has done this because it's my idea, it's something unique or something special. Maybe even if it is repeated elsewhere, they still feel it's highly unique to them. The thing is that probably 95% of a small business is identical to among all small businesses. And one of the things that they have a tendency to do, thank you. One of the things they brought me water, which is great. Thank you very much, Susan. There we go. Mm.
perfect.
The profitability issue is a big one because small business owners go into what they do, and maybe even mid-sized business owners that inherit them, say, from a previous generation in their family, have a tendency to focus on the product, the service, the creative component, maybe even the bean counting, right? Um, but a small business owner really needs to have a holistic view. And one of the things that they they really do run away from is this idea of budgeting because they don't really want to plan out the year. They don't want to plan out the future. They just want to kind of bring their new idea to market and give it a shot, almost shoot from the hip. The thing is, if they actually go through the planning that's needed, and whether it's a pro forma forecast for the next year. I like to call them forecasts as opposed to budgets. They can actually predict their profitability at the end of that year. And
Hmm.
all of their decisions then flow through the financial statements and allow them to have a properly objective framework to make decisions, whether it's in the cost of the delivery of their services, the production of the materials or whatever, or their overhead. That foresight will improve the likelihood of success for a small business.
It's such an interesting thing because I know that there is probably a whole lot of us that don't ever go into those steps of forecasting. And one of the things you said in your chapter, I even printed it off so that we could discuss it. It said, and you started that this is how you started the chapter. Instinctively, many small business owners, about 24%, have a survivalist nature, but not all. Most, 74%, are idea creators lacking business acumen. The remainder, just 2%, are classical entrepreneurs, often portrayed as risk takers. Fascinating. It's
It is.
really, yeah, truly fascinating because at the very core of our world, many of us, we maybe have started out as entrepreneurs and gone all the way through, or we've had other careers and came to this point of being entrepreneurs. And what we find is oftentimes we do nothing but work more than we worked when we worked for a company, and so really, how do we what actions do we take to actually transform this for our business?
Well, the first thing is let's qualify risk taking, right? If we go into something, whether we're going to buy a house, a car, decide on a college for ourselves or for a child, we evaluate the pros and cons. Yet, yet that means that it's calculated risk taking. We do a calculation, and when you get tied up in running a business on a day to day basis, you deal with a lot of things. There's a lot of rabbit holes to fall down into, and we lose sight of the big picture. That happens constantly. It's an incredible balance that we have to keep. I I try to give people the picture of the plate spinner during the Ed Sullivan show back in the day, right? They're up there they're spinning all these plates, and the idea is to keep them on these needle points, and they do it, and that's basically what we do. So as small business owners, as entrepreneurs, particularly, and not all small business owners are entrepreneurs. I mean, an entrepreneurial spirit is one where you basically get up and pull up your bootstraps every day, knowing that failure is not going to hold you back from realizing your dream. Some of the other authors in the series, and certainly in this year's book, talk about that idea of that you don't have to go to the school of hard knocks and graduate with a Google degree to come forward and do small business, do entrepreneurism. You have an idea, you calculate it, you look at the market interesting enough as to what it is you want to accomplish, and then you maintain that goal, that consistency of vision throughout, and don't let that go. the the ability to plan that out for the year. And even if you've started your business, I mean, I'm not talking about somebody who's just going to start something up tomorrow. These could be businesses that have been around for years, maybe even a decade or two. All they have to do is look at their expenses last year and throw that into a spreadsheet and compute a projection for this year in terms of a percentage of sales growth and maybe a little bit of percentage increase given our wonderfully new inflation rates of what our costs are going to be like, and literally at the beginning of the year know exactly where it is you want to be at the end of that year in terms of your profit margin. It's a reasonable exercise, and it's one that I find very few small business owners take the time to do. And yet it's the one thing that would probably give them a good framework to run the business forever that way, really.
Right. And if we did, more of us did that, it would probably not have such of that fail factor that we see so often.
Yeah. There's been improvements there, right? It used to be that 2/3 of businesses, small businesses, would fail within the first 3 years. Then it went to 5 years. Now the statistic is somewhere around 10. which means people that are going into business are now finding financing, they're doing the proper planning, but that's still too high. That's
Yeah,
still
it is.
two-thirds of businesses are going to be out of business in a decade. And if you're building a lasting legacy, which is what entrepreneurs do, right? One of the other things I tell them to do is know what your end game is. Don't start a business till you know how you're going to get out of it.
Right.
I
And
mean,
that's a huge factor, isn't it? Very huge. Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. So how do you show up in the world today? Are you a coach for businesses? What do you do for that you have so much wisdom? How do people find you and get to know you and get your services?
Well, thank you. So I've been doing this a long time, um, 40 years. I started out as a professor and as an innovator. I've always been an innovator. And so it's hard for me to say that I'm a coach or anything like that. What I really am is a person who solves problems and makes measurements. It's what I've been doing for 40 years. And the name of the company is Sagacity. It's Sagacity LLC. You can Google that online. You can obviously access the book page through the Brilliant Breakthroughs book and get my free download, for example, on the recipe for small business growth. It's free information, and if you like what we're talking about there, and my team and I, who've been doing this now for decades for businesses, some of them multi generational. If you're an entrepreneur and you have a child that you're trying to bring up in the next generation, and that child might have already gone to college and might not be adapting quite the way you want to, hey, we'll work with you on that succession plan. If you want to implement this predictive capability in profits and in productivity, carrying on what I did in chapter 4 with chapter 5, just give me a call. The first hour is free. And the really great thing about this is we don't really charge for our deliverables. We just charge for our time. And if you find that the time is not valuable, there's no charge, no question asked. That's a written guarantee on our website. Otherwise, it's webinars, it's lectures. We're into some very interesting things. For example, in the decentralized space, right? Which is this idea of, you'll hear more and more of it, just like you hear supply chain today, and nobody knew what that was a year ago.
Years.
Now we're all talking the buzz. Same thing in decentralized in human resources. I'm part of an organization that's international, and that's a big challenge for businesses. I don't care if you're a large enterprise or you're a small 1, 2, 3 person shop looking to add that next person. HR and technology are going through some major paradigm shifts as we speak, all pushed on us because of the pandemic. And we have solutions. I can get you to the endpoint and evaluate what your needs are very, very quickly, very easily, save you time, get you back to the business of why you went into business in the first place. You
Beautiful.
shouldn't have to be a technologist to excel in your business. You do not have to. You do have to tame the technology, and I guess that's what I am. I guess I'm a technology tamer.
And that's beautiful because so many of us are like get the overwhelm with the technology, and our world has truly changed quickly, and it's a lot to keep up with, especially if we are very busy and we have a lot of balls in the air to try and take
Well,
care of. um, the technology piece on top of it. Just today, we've had a lot of technical difficulties getting into this for this live stream, and it can unnerve you and kind of make you go the other way for a while.
it's I've always been a change agent, and I changed that recently to change catalyzer because I think the term change agent becomes more like a change manager. I don't manage change. I implement. I come up with it, and I've done that for decades. But I like the idea of a technology team. I think I'm going to
I
trademark.
like that. That's even better. Dennis, I so appreciate your contribution in the book, and I know many others. Looking at the comments that are coming through here, it's pretty amazing. Thank you for your wisdom and your contribution. And for those that are listening or going to be listening to this, because it'll stay up here and you can click on it at any time, be sure and get a copy of the book, realizing that there are 4 others before it. And every one of those books are amazing. So pick up a copy, and his at the end of his chapter, there's a way for you to connect with Dennis. So thank you.
Thank you, Becky. Look, small business owners, let me appeal to you. You can't afford a board of directors, but you can afford 5 paperback books or even better, electronic books today. And you will get more advice. In fact, I added up the years of experience of the authors. It's almost a millennium, almost
Mhm.
1,000 years of business experience and knowledge available in these paperback books. And they're not like books where you're going to read it once. You're going to keep going back to it over and over again, just like you would a board of directors. And that will help you pick even a good physical board of directors at some point for your business when you are that next crypto or decentralized success out there. So I need to urge people to do that. And Becky, this has been a real thrill for me again, a second time through on this rodeo trip, but with you and me. But I have really enjoyed this group, particularly of authors this year. Of course, Maggie's leadership is renowned, and it's really terrific to be a part of this.
Yes, very much, very much. And thank you for all that you bring to the world.
Thank you.
All righty.